Hi there, beautiful souls. I'm Gabrielle, retired medium in Germany, and I like to share some of my otherworldly experiences and insights. So, this one is a little bit more about the FAE Realm, because there's much more to that realm than I can ever tell. so, um, I was guided to research and look into this Fey realm, and I do not follow anyone because I was spoiled more or less having a look behind the scenes in the Rosicrucian organization and all this kind of human theater, these intrigues and power and greed and whatever that plays out in some kind of human society and also in these kind of clubs. Wow, no, I'm not about that. It's just too much for me. So I stick with the coat of armor from my beloved deceased husband, who's now my spirit guide as well. And he was a Frisian Dutchman from the coast, and the coat of armor said, I do not bow my head in front of no one but God, and he does not want it. So I made a little change, and I changed the he into she. She does not want that because our idea of God is just so limited. It's not a he, like all the patriarchal churches want to make us believe. And it's not only a she, it's even more, much more. So that's why I follow no one but God or Source, and she does not want it. But I inform myself, and they send me researching all kinds of weird stuff, and I get a lot of insights because it's about the process. If you start to do something and make just one step, I tell you, that's a promise, spirit world will come 2 steps towards you. But you have to initiate the contact. You have to want it and to wish for it. And not from here, from the mind, but really from your heart. I remember watching some other channels, and I watched an episode with a guy from Germany called Tim Tactical, and he was at the Jeff Mara podcast. And I really loved this story that was like real life when he started to talk about that there were people forming around him and they wanted to go into a forest and meditate, do a CE5 protocol, like Dr. Stephen Greer published this kind of protocol with meditation and some other things to really focus and concentrate and maybe call some of the sky people, our star family, starship or whatever. And he told that he had this one young woman coming to him, oh yes, I want to, I'm so ready, and like that. Well, sometimes we think we are ready, but we are not really ready. The soul decides when we are ready. That's according to divine timing. And we have no idea of divine timing. I banged my head many times on kind of walls where I wanted something right now and here, and I just heard them laughing. Not in a bad way, very compassionate. And I asked, why are you laughing at me? And they said, not yet. It's not yet the time. You're ahead of your time. So sometimes if things does not work, it's just not the right timing. Or maybe it's not the right project or not the right idea. So we have to ponder on our wishes a little bit. And exactly that woman that said, I'm so ready, I want to see a spaceship. And they sat in a forest in southern Germany and meditated and did the CE5 protocol. And when some kind of dot, a light appeared in the sky above them and came closer, it was exactly that woman, like Tim Tactical told, who got scared and freaked out, and she ran into the forest impulsively, screaming, kicking, shouting, whatever. And the whole group had to be responsible for her and go after her and find her in the forest, get her back, calm her down so that nothing happens and she doesn't get hurt or falls or do some harm to herself. So that's about thinking we are ready. And I had some moments like that. Also, I was very much into, oh, I want to see you. And then I came across, guided, um, just a few sentences on the back of a book cover from Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham. And I really like her channeling. So I had a book from her, and I just read on the back page one little incident. She also wanted to see, kind of like see Abraham, who they are, what they look like. And she begged and asked them, I want to see you. But she was lying on her bed, like this, I want to see you. She did not really want to see them. She only thought she wanted. And they were kind enough to just show a little bit of themselves, like dipping a toe into the bath water, kind of little lights flaring in a corner of the room, and it looked to her like fireflies, and that was a nice appearance she could deal with. And I had the same kind of moment. I was once in my bed, and at night, probably close to theta brainwave state. That's closely before you fall asleep, and that's the same brainwave state that's used in the quantum healing hypnosis technique, in the QHHT hypnosis. You keep the client in theta, and then you can contact the subconscious and ask questions for the clients that he or she wrote down before the session on a piece of paper, and you're asking in their name. So I was in my bed, close to theta state, and I had this strong wish, oh, I want to see you, I want to get an image, a vision of you. And then they asked me, do you really want to see us? And I noticed that I was already tense like this, like Esther Hicks laying on her bed saying, I want to see you, by poking or closing the eyes very strongly. And I found myself, yes, I want to see you, but also at the same moment, I'm a bit scared and afraid because I don't know what to expect, and maybe something that scares me will show up. And then they laughed again compassionately and said, you're not really ready. Just wait, dear one. One day, when the right divine timing is upon you, you will see us. Okay, so I'll stick with that. And I know it's quite difficult because it really starts with discerning the sound or the voice of your ego, which is mostly in your head as thoughts, and the voice of the heart, which is more connected to the soul and speaks more in images and vibration, equals feelings, because emotions are energy in motion. Everything is flowing, like the old Greeks said, pantarei. Everything is flowing. So energy does not stand still. It's always moving and flowing, and it's got this wave form. and you have the ups and downs, and know when you're down, the hairs to coming up. And don't cling to the ups, because they need this up and down to create more knowledge, more wisdom, more understanding. You need both experiences, so-called good and bad, to find your own point of view and where you want to place yourself. And I already told that the way of the Buddha, the way of the middle, being in balance with your emotions, is a very good point to start. So, I said this is about more of the FAE Realm, but there was coming this kind of forward. I don't know, it comes from them, some explanations. So I'm starting now with my little story. After my mediumship trainment, well, I had kind of a good basis, but I had to experience a lot of things and find out my own way how to deal with all of that. Sorry. And I had in my mediumship development circle a man sitting with some other interested persons. Not everybody was a trained medium, but there were interested persons who wanted to train their psychic senses. And it's always good to do that in a group, because there you get a real feedback about your perceptions, which you do not always get in the normal world outside. And so this man, he was a doctor and a homeopath, and he had some patients where he was at the end of his knowledge and he didn't know what to do else, and he was kind of, I don't know why, I don't think I'm special, and there are even people that can perceive more and better than me. But we met in this group, and he wanted to send some of his patients to me to have a look from a very different viewpoint, from the mediumship side, at their kind of problems or challenges and health problems and so on. And when he sent me the first patient, I did not really know what to do, but I was kind of guided. So I closed my eyes, brought myself into some meditative condition or state, and does not take that long, 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes 15. Deep breathing and just trying to get calm and quiet the mind, however you want to call that. So I did that, and then I just intuitively said out loud 3 times, the magic 3, the name of the patient, and I called upon the system, the whole microcosm of the patient. And what I saw behind my closed 3D eyes in my inner vision, my inner eye, was, looking like some kind of gnome or imp, was a little figure, just maybe 50 or 60 centimeters high, and was all dressed in green. And it had this little red, typical red gnome head. And intuitively, I just said, Namaste, I'm greeting the light inside of you. Who are you? What are you doing here? Are you here to help me? What can you show me? And it more or less, this being more or less declared itself as the body elemental being, which I had never heard before. And it made me know that it was here to help, and that it was guiding over the microcosmic system of the patient the friend from the group had sent to me. And it also told me every person living has not only spirit guides, and they come in all kinds of forms. You can have your guardian angel, you can have an ascended master, a saint, or some of your ancestors, or maybe your deceased grandpa, who knows, and also beings from the other nature realms. Like you can have a fairy, an elf guide, you can have a gnome guide, you can have an imp guide. It's just that most people don't know that. So he said to me, more or less, everyone has a lot of guides from all the different realms, and in whatever realm you are interested, whatever attracts you. So there's a good point to start, to try to make contact with that realm. Might it be the animals, the plants, or the FAE realm, or whatever. Even a gardener who does not consider himself spiritual but loves to plant plants and water them, that's a highly spiritual kind of work. Because on the higher levels, that's what more or less evolution is. So this body elemental appeared, and I asked it to show me what's the matter with this patient, and I plead to show it to me that I unmistakably can understand what is really meant. So this little imp started like a mime, like playing the game charade. He was showing without talking or telepathically communicating with me, because words you can interpret and then you can get it wrong. He just showed me what was the matter with that patient. And he was running around in circles, like huff, puff, 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 very, very laborious, and it seemed a lot of work. And I got that just from looking at him running and showing me, oh, I'm working so hard with this patient and his body. And then he suddenly fell back, and he was on his back as if, oh, I surrender, I can't go any further, I can't succeed with this work, it's just too much. Okay, and the patient was someone who had a lot of physical problems with kidney transplantation and things like that. And then he just, because I asked, I felt some kind of anger in that patient. And I didn't know where it came from. It wasn't surely not mine, because I wasn't angry. I did not feel angry. And I couldn't understand why this boy, it was a 14-year-old boy with transplanted kidneys, why he is angry. Maybe because his life is so difficult because of the kidney problem, whatever. But it felt as if it was coming from somewhere else or someone else. So when I asked the little body elemental about that, where's this anger coming from? He just pointed with his finger somewhere, and in my inner vision, I just kind of followed the line his finger was pointing at, and then boom, I was in the beyond. And I met the donor of the kidneys the young boy had got transplanted. And it was a woman, an older woman, and she was running around in circles, having her hand exactly where the kidneys were. And she was all looking down, like being fixated to the ground. She couldn't even look up, and she was running around in circles, like being trapped. And what I got from her was like, nobody asked me. I did not consent to take my kidneys out. And I was kind of shocked, because I thought Well, you have to consent. There's even some kind of little paper that you can have with you all the time, like in your purse, saying, I'm an organ donator or I don't want that. And, well, the thing was, what I found out, she, the donor of the kidneys, did not leave any notice about whether she wanted to be a donor or not during her lifetime. And she died quite fast in whatever kind of situation. So her relatives, her children, decided for her after she was in the hospital and dead. And they had this kind of humanistic approach. Well, maybe we can help another being with some organs, so we agree. And the doctors did their work. But she did not agree. And she was caught in the embarrassment of being overridden in her will. And there was also this false belief that she thought she's not complete. Her kidneys are missing in her body, but she was already on the other side of the veil in her etheric body. And that etheric body is always complete. There is nothing missing, even if you amputate a leg. And I had an uncle who came from the Second World War with an amputated arm and leg, and he had these wooden kind of things. I don't know. In Germany, it's called something like a prosthesis. So he had some kind of false arm made from wood and a false leg made from wood. But the funny thing, as children, it was always when he was there, sometimes he just reached out with his hand and scratched the wooden leg. And we, as children, when he was visiting us at home, we always found this very funny. And we asked him, why can you scratch your leg? You don't have a leg. There's only a piece of wood there. And he said, I feel the scratch and I have to scratch, although it doesn't help on scratching on the wooden leg. So that was some kind of memory I had from my childhood, which makes sense to me that in the etherical body, everything is still there. Whatever organ or thing you take from this body, from the physical, the etherical is kind of the blueprint of how to construct the body and the material with the cells and the organs and the blood and everything. So she thought she could not enter into heaven because of the missing kidneys. And she's not allowed to enter into heaven and the divine realm. Something along that lines, which comes from a false belief, maybe from church or whatever authority. She had this false belief. So I looked at her, and what I perceived from her by the emotions was what I just told you. So I greeted her again with the namaste. I greet the light inside of you. I was addressing her soul, and suddenly she stopped circling and she looked up at me as if for the first time she had an encounter with another being. And I told her, you are complete. Your etheric body has everything you need, and no one but yourself or this false belief can prevent you from entering into heaven. And I can tell you that the boy and his family is very happy to live with your kidneys, although you did not agree in this life. Maybe you can find some peace with that this boy can live on now because of your kidneys. And the anger that you felt because you did not agree consciously, you can just let it go because you're complete. Your soul is not missing a single piece of divinity, and just go to the heaven wherever you want to go to. Look around you. Surely there are some well-known kind of figures or faces that you don't know where to place them. They are your guides, your guardian angel, or your helpers. So ask them to guide you to heaven. And she looked at me with big eyes, and I really saw the bricks falling as she was digesting my information. And then suddenly she smiled and she went off like a rocket into heaven or wherever she wanted to go to. So that was kind of a happy end experience for me. And she also dissolved the still existing connection with the kidneys transplanted into that boy, where all this anger from her was flowing still to the kidneys. That's why they were causing more problems than a normal transplanted kidney. This boy had a lot of problems. The body tried to reject the organ, so he had to take a lot of pills and things like that. That numbed him down, and he was kind of sleepy all the time, couldn't really live the life of a boy, had no friends, wasn't going out very much or playing and things like that. And all that became so much better after the soul had gone and acknowledged, okay, I'm complete in my other form, and what happens to my kidneys is not my problem anymore. And I can even let go of the anger and resentment or whatever, the negative feelings that cause problems with the kidneys in the boy. So that was very interesting to me, and I learned a lot. And then I found, or more or less I was guided, to come across a book of, I think it was a Canadian author, a woman, with the name of Tanis Halliwell, and she wrote a book about a summer with the leprechauns. She had red hair. That's kind of the Celtic feature. And she wanted to visit Ireland, where her family came from, so she knew about her roots. And she rented a cottage in Ireland and found out this cottage had invisible inhabitants, but she could see them, and they were leprechauns. And she came in contact with the head of this leprechaun family. It was the typical cliche, white beard and so on. And she talked with him, and he told her that they had some kind of a contract with Rudolf Steiner, the founder of anthroposophy from Germany. And he wrote a lot of books about how to gain knowledge from higher dimensions, and he had contact with the FAE Realm and the gnomes. He was writing a lot about that in his books. And it made sense to me that he came in contact with the FAE Realm and even worked with them, but because he had so much good information that they provided him with, like the body elemental provided me with this whole experience where I learned a lot trying to help this boy with the kidney problems. And that was very interesting. And she also wrote about the body elemental, and that she started working and healing with the body elemental of the clients that came to her. So that was a very interesting story to me. And a short time later, I again somehow found myself on the other side of the veil in the FAE Realm. And I met Rudolf Steiner there. I stood somewhere suddenly, like I popped in just right now, and there was a figure beside me. And I looked, And it was Rudolf Steiner. I couldn't believe it. He had this kind of old fashioned attire from the 19th century, and a little bit rougher and different fabric like now. And he was rocking fore and back on his toes, and he seemed a little bit vain to me. And in the normal world, I wouldn't say something like that, but there on the other side, everything's so transparent and you just can't lie. So I burst it out, and it came out of my mouth. You're not a bit vain, aren't you? And he laughed and laughed. And I got, oh, he knows it. And he's just playing around with it. He's not prey of his being vain. He's playing with it. Oh, so this shows me that he's already beyond or above it. And he was just kind of poking or testing me. And that was really interesting. And I had a short conversation with him. That was more or less private or special for me, so I'm not going to share that because also because of the language barrier, there are some things I could never translate into English, and it was personal for me, so it wouldn't help you if I tell you that. This I know. Okay, so you don't have to be curious. You can have your own experiences. And I really like that because I got a lot of information also from reading books of Rudolf Steiner. Another very funny experience was once when I was in Brazil, and the house where I stayed had a very big porch, and there was a hammock. Maybe you don't know what the hammock does. This is this kind of movement and that kind of movement. That's exactly the movement we have as fetus or baby in the womb of the mother, because the mother is walking and doing things, so we get these movements. And just in case you did not know, that's why I love hammocks. If you stay in there 15 or 20 minutes and just moving this, doing these little movements with the hammock, you're relaxing so deeply as if you had 1 hour of real, refreshing, nurturing sleep. So I was in the hammock in Brazil, and I was reading a book of Rudolf Steiner. I don't know, don't remember which one, doesn't even matter. And there was just a chapter starting going about something like the house elf, that every house, every place, every area has some of these invisible beings that are connected with nature and plants, and they care for the plants. The FAE make the plants grow and help them, and they also care for the animals and help them, and they also care for humans. But during the last decades, these realms drifted more apart. And as we were doing a lot of harm to Mother Nature and the whole ecosystem, they kept some distance, which I can perfectly understand. But now it's all coming together again. All the worlds are coming together again because it's about unity and union. So I was in the hammock reading about the house elf and stopping and pausing and asking myself suddenly, does this house here in Brazil where I'm at now have a house elf as well? And then I suddenly heard this high-pitched, childlike giggling, like and I closed my eyes because I know if I look with these eyes, I don't see anything. So I closed my eyes, and with my inner eye, I saw this little guy, like the imp or the body elemental I described, 40 or 50 centimeters high, dressed in green, and with this red pointy hat on his head. And he was sitting on one of the chairs on the porch with dangling little legs because he was so tiny he couldn't even reach the ground from the height of the chair. And he was looking at me and laughing and was very friendly and so cute. I just fell in love with him. And he told me, yes, I am caring for this house and everything around. And I thought by myself, oh, wow, that's kind of a great task and a lot of work you have to do, because I see only the visible and I don't know what you are doing invisibly, but I know it's a lot. And he said, thank you, dear one. And then I asked him, is there anything I can do for you? Maybe do you a little favor, something I as a human can do. And then I suddenly, inside of me, in front of my inner eye, I saw just this white fluid, and it was easy to get that it was milk. And I remembered these old fairy tales and stories we had in Germany. I read as a child in the fairy tale books that in former times the people used to put a little bit of milk somewhere in the house for the house elves as a kind of thank you for your work. I acknowledge what you do to keep this house clean and free of bad energy and to care for the plants and the animals and so on. So I stood up and came back with a little one of these very, very little cups that they have in Brazil just for a small coffee. And I poured some milk in there and I put it in front of the chair where I saw him inside of me sitting with his dangling legs. And a minute later, when I came back into my hammock and closed my eyes again, I saw him with this little mug sipping from the milk. And he was smiling all over. And he said, thank you so much, dear one. Wow, that was so simple and what an honor. And I just love them. So I want to leave you with that. And I hope it answers some of your questions. If not, just ask me questions in the comment. I'm happy to answer and interact with you. And if I don't know something, I will tell you. I'm not the know-it-all. And I can ask them and they will provide an answer. So, thank you very much for spending some time with me and them. Blessings, dear souls. Thank you for watching. Love and light onto your path.